Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a guide for round 2 of the manufacturer exhibition series. Let's get this started. Your first braking point is just before you reach the 150 meter mark. You'll be braking hard for a while, and then you'll be taking advantage of the first curb on the right turn. Don't bring your left wheels over the yellow curb, as that will get you an off-track penalty. Use a quick burst of braking as you make this left turn. Just let the car quickly rotate, get it straightened out, and then you can start to fully accelerate. Stay on the right side, and your next braking point is just after you reach the 150 meter mark. You can also brake just before you pass this little path that is on the right. Brake hard for a while, take advantage of the curbs, make sure the right wheels don't hit the yellow curb, make sure the left wheels don't hit the yellow curb for this part, and you basically want to get a slow entry into the chicane so you can get a fast exit out of the chicane. Now brake as you pass the 50 meter mark, just let the car rotate, slowly accelerate, and now you can brake before you reach the 50 meter mark. If that sign is knocked out, brake just as you go in between the shadows of these two trees. Just let the car quickly rotate, do not get on the AstroTurf on the left, quickly start to accelerate. Look for a path that is on the right, just before the 100 meter mark, as that will be your next braking point, and the car will quickly rotate itself so you can get on the throttle pretty early here. Now we'll go ahead and fast forward through this just one more time. Bring yourself to the left and brake as you pass the 100 meter mark. Turn in at the 50 meter mark so you can stay at the apex for a short moment. Quickly get on the throttle, and if you do this right, you won't end up going too wide and you'll get a fast exit out of this turn. But that is all for the lap guide. Let's go ahead and quickly talk about the strategies. So for the qualifying strategy, you're going to have 10 minutes to try to get a good qualifying time, and since Monza is a high-speed track, slipstream is going to be a huge key here on trying to get a good qualifying time. But first of all, because the tire wear is pretty low here, you can pretty much just go all out from the moment you gain control of your car. Just make sure that you do drive a little carefully through the chicanes so you don't pick up a penalty on your outlap, which will be pretty annoying to deal with. So other than just trying to be squeaky clean, just make sure that you find a buddy or a couple buddies to get the slipstream out of, and make sure that you are within the 3/4 of a second, since that is a slipstream range. And especially if you're in a handling car that doesn't have the top end speed, you really want to make sure that you do get in the slipstream during your qualifying times so you can at least get a good qualifying position. If not, then you're just going to end up getting left behind. And this is going to be one of those tracks where you want to try to nail every corner, get the perfect apex, entry, and exit, because if you make just a little mistake, that will cost you time. So once you complete 1 or 2 qualifying laps, you want to press options, exit, and then enter course if you're doing a practice race, or qualifying if you're in the actual race itself. That way you do not have to do a in lap, and you can just go straight to the pit stop, go out to do your out lap, and then you can start your next qualifying laps. And you're basically going to want to repeat this, hopefully find some slipstream along the way, and you're going to repeat this until you run out of time. For the race start, you just want to be a little careful here since your tires are definitely going to be cold, so you want to brake a little early for this first chicane. And especially if you're further down the pack, you're going to be having that slipstream, so your car is going to be faster, so you want to brake a little earlier, so that way hopefully you won't be the one that initiates the turn 1 punt city carnage. But anyways, going on with the race strategies, your goal here is to try to no stop this race. Fuel will be an issue, and tire wear will be an issue depending on the car that you're in. So we'll talk about the fuel first, and your fuel situation will depend on the position that you're in. So if you're in first place, or if you're in the front of the pack, so you basically have no slipstream, then you're going to want to only short shift when you're in the Lesmos. So around this area that I'm in right now in this video, this is where you want to do your short shifting. If you short shift anywhere else, you risk losing pace, which will make it harder for you to catch up to those ahead of you, and it'll be easier for those behind you to catch up to you. And this will be the case for those not in the slipstream. As you're nearing the end of a long straight, you can bring the fuel mapping down to 2 or even more, so you can save a little more fuel along the way. Because you are doing 20 laps at Monza, your goal is to use 5% of fuel on each lap. So that's in case you're not in the slipstream, but if you are in the slipstream as you see here, then it's going to be a little bit easier to fuel save, as you'll be going faster because the car ahead of you is giving you a tow, so you have a bit more flexibility to do some short shifting. So with slipstream giving you the advantage of short shifting pretty much whenever you want, this will be the better way of fuel saving, which makes slipstream a necessity for this race. And of course you'll go even faster, which is always a nice thing to do. Just make sure that you brake a little bit earlier if you are within the slipstream, so you don't end up punting the car ahead of you and they get mad at you for it. So to summarize that part up, stay in the slipstream, use 5% of fuel each lap, and you'll be fine. As for the tires, you want to try to make them last as long as possible. It'll be easier on some cars, it'll be more difficult on others, like the Audi TT Cup. But anyways, you want to try not to be overly harsh on your tires, because if you are harsh on your tires, you're not going to have a good time towards the end of the race. So you want to make sure that you're not initiating the steering lock by steering all the way into one direction. You don't want to have the car slide around too much, and you also want to try to be a little careful when you're on your hard braking zones. So if possible, you can brake just a little bit earlier so you don't have to be at full braking power at all times when you're slowing down. By doing so, your tires will be able to last just a little bit longer, and that can make the difference between having the time drop off start at lap 15, let's say, or be as late as lap 17 or even later. In the case of the Viper, I was able to make the tires last the whole race without much of an issue. The car did get a little bit sketchy towards the last 2 laps, and that was mostly within the braking zones, but other than that, the car was still just fine to drive, not too many issues. And the time drop off for me didn't start until lap 18, which is where I started braking into the 158s. So if you're able to take care of your tires and keep an eye on your fuel, then there's going to be no need for you to do a pit stop. But if your car is really harsh on the tires, then you might be forced to do a one stop, which will set you behind. So if you do end up pitting just for tires, you'll end up being about 7 to 8 seconds behind. And the thing is that if those ahead of you end up being consistent with the times, they don't battle too much, then it's going to be extremely difficult for you to try to retake your positions, even if you are within someone's slipstream. So if you're in a car that has decent tire wear, then yeah, just try to no stop this race. And if your car is extremely harsh on the tires, like the front wheel drives, well, good luck, as you're most likely going to be forced to do a one stop. So at that point, you have to qualify as high up as possible, then try to get away from everyone else, so that way when you are in the pit stop, you lose as few positions as possible, and hopefully when you're back out, you can try to make up as much progress as you can. But that is pretty much it for this guide. Once again, just try to go for the no stop if possible, but I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA, wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.